Hello everyone! Thank you for visiting our channel. Have you ever experienced such like stories? Daniel dialed his wife's number. "Haley, I will meet you today after work," he said when she answered the phone. "Danny, stop worrying so much. I will safely travel with the girls," replied his wife. "Kayla will drive us, and we are headed in the same direction. Anyway, I have to return to work now." Her husband sighed and hung up the phone. Perhaps he was excessively worried and needed to stop being so overbearing towards his wife. But the reasons for his concern were significant. Haley worked as a manager in a large company. 6 months ago, the employee roster needed expansion, and the company hired several more managers for the project. Among them was Joseph, a very lively and assertive man who was sometimes too self-assured. He quickly blended into the team, tried to fill every space with himself, and interjected himself into any conversation. At first, his attention was scattered among all his colleagues, but over the last couple of weeks, he had begun to focus more and more on Haley. Daniel first learned about this from Haley, who started sharing interesting stories with her husband that Joseph had been telling. Later, he saw Joseph escorting Haley out of the office building. That evening, Daniel walked to his wife's workplace because their car was in the shop, and he didn't want her to walk alone on the dark streets. He saw Joseph open the entrance glass door for Haley and jokingly bow while extending his arm, as if he were showing deference to a queen. Haley chuckled, and Joseph, supporting her elbow, helped her down the stairs. Then he made another joke and stepped back. Haley noticed her husband and said, "Joseph is very funny. He's just trying to butter you up," replied her husband. "Oh, stop it. He's always like that. We're just friends. Shall we go home?" Daniel didn't believe in friendship between a man and a woman. Joseph was merely putting on a show for Haley, and she naively thought it was all purely friendly. Since then, her husband tried to meet her every day after work, specifically waiting in the lobby so that the intrusive colleague would see that Haley had a husband who was nearby. Joseph also kept his distance and did not touch Haley. At one point, the woman enjoyed the attention from her husband, but then she felt like she was on a short leash and asked him not to pressure her so much. She asked him to calm down and not to make a big deal out of it, especially since she was married to him, and this was just a colleague who was trying to fit in with the team, especially since he communicates with other people besides Haley. Daniel understood everything and tried to control himself, but sometimes it didn't work out very well. One day the situation got out of control and he lost it. One evening, a courier came to their apartment. Daniel opened the door and saw the courier. "Hello, I have a package for you," the young man said happily. "But I didn't order anything." The man looked at the box in surprise. "It's a gift. Here's the note." The courier handed the man the box and left. Daniel took the note in his hand and read it. "Beautiful Haley, your hands work wonders." Inside the box was a fruit basket. At that moment, Haley had just come out of the kitchen to see who had come. "Can you explain this to me?" her husband said through gritted teeth, handing her the note. The woman took it, read it several times, looked at one spot with confusion, and then laughed. "Oh, so it's from Joseph." She didn't finish her sentence when her husband began to shout. "Oh, from Joseph? Have you completely lost your mind? And what wonders have your hands worked, huh?" The man threw the box against the wall with force. "Daniel, what are you doing?" Haley was genuinely frightened. He had a stuck program on his work computer. "I came and fixed it all." "And what did you think?" "What the hell does he think he's doing giving gifts to a married woman, tell me?" The husband didn't calm down. "And what, you can't express your gratitude for help anymore just because I'm married, is that it?" Now even Haley was getting angry. The spouses went to different rooms to cool down. Daniel later realized that he wasn't actually angry about the gift itself, but rather the ambiguous content of the note that came with it. It seemed like it was done intentionally, as Joseph definitely knew that Daniel would read it and have questions. After a few days, the argument began to fade away and things returned to normal. Daniel had a lot of work as a sound engineer for various events, some of which involved just making sure the musicians sounded good, while others involved playing music at parties. With so much work, he was able to distract himself from constantly monitoring his wife and his annoying colleague. One day, Haley mentioned that her company was planning a corporate event for their anniversary and she needed to choose dresses and accessories because all the girls in her department were going to wear their best outfits and Haley didn't want to fall behind. Needless to say, Daniel didn't like the idea at all. Not because of the outfits, no, but because, due to the nature of his work, he had already seen too many of these corporate events and they didn't inspire confidence in him. Informal atmosphere, lots of alcohol. Some people just lose control at these events. Daniel asked his wife as gently as possible to skip the event because he was very worried about her. He suggested going somewhere together instead. Ah, here we go. You never invite me anywhere, and now this. Haley was outraged. Because of your completely unfounded worries, I have to miss a party? Are you serious? Daniel, this is pure selfishness, don't you think? Her husband understood how it looked. That's why he didn't choose the "I'm the husband, I forbid you" tactic. Yes, this conversation was started because he was the one who was worried. Please, my dear. Daniel sighed. Just stay away from that guy, okay? From the very beginning, I should have been like this, Haley. Don't worry, everything will be fine. I plan to dance only with the girls. Her husband was a little calmer. He didn't want to argue with his wife anymore, so he ended the conversation there. It's the day of the corporate party. Haley went to the beauty salon during the day to get her hair done. Daniel's event was canceled for the day, so he stayed home and decided to work on a music project for some friends. He needed to mix a couple of tracks for their new album. After seeing his wife off, he got to work. Towards the evening, he received a notification on his phone. He was subscribed to a mailing list for hot job offers for sound engineers. An urgent request for a sound engineer for a corporate party tonight had just arrived. They were willing to pay extra for the urgency because the previous sound engineer fell ill. Daniel checked the name of the client and the venue of the party. It was Haley's company. He immediately responded to the job offer. His friend's project would have to wait. He needed to make sure everything was okay with his wife. That's what he kept telling himself, but deep down, he had doubts. The dress code for the company's performer did not require anything special. Sound engineers were usually not highly visible. Therefore, Daniel wore a bulky hoodie and dark jeans. It was comfortable, and no one would recognize him. He entered the hall with his hood up, taking his place at the very back of the room. From there, he could observe the entire venue and the guests. At the beginning of the evening, the company's top executives gave speeches, expressing gratitude and congratulations to the employees. Then the official part was over, and a band of musicians took the stage. Daniel had to adjust the sound for them, which he did without any problems. He also managed to keep an eye on the guests of the party. Most of them were still sitting at tables, sipping drinks and chatting, while some others went to dance. Daniel saw his wife sitting at a table near the stage, surrounded by girls from her department. They were chatting and laughing cheerfully. Maybe I was worrying for nothing, he thought. Haley really is just sitting with her girlfriends. After a couple of hours, the musicians finished their performance, and someone from the company offered them snacks. The guests began dancing to the music, and the party was getting livelier by the minute. Daniel briefly lost sight of his wife, and as he looked around the room, a drunken girl approached him with a plate of food. "Hey, handsome, you must be hungry," she slurred, trying to speak clearly. "I'm sorry, but I'm here with my wife, and I'm not interested in getting to know anyone else," Daniel replied firmly. The surprised stranger shrugged and left. Daniel resumed searching for Haley, eventually finding her dancing in the middle of the room with Joseph, one of her colleagues, who was holding her hand and smiling cheekily. Haley was laughing and hanging onto his neck. Daniel was boiling with anger. How could she behave like this? Where had they been together? After a minute, Joseph began to touch her inappropriately, and she continued to laugh. Daniel couldn't believe his eyes. All his efforts to calm down had been in vain. He knew that there was something going on between them. He was ready to jump out of his seat and confront Joseph, but he didn't want to act unprofessionally and call for an ambulance or the police. He restrained himself, realizing that he would have a chance to sort things out later. Amid all this emotional turmoil, Daniel had completely forgotten about work. After a lively song, a very slow composition began to play. The music took him out of his own thoughts. The song played was the one they danced to at their own wedding. It was their song, and it meant a lot to both of them. Haley also listened to the music. Joseph had already prepared for a slow dance, but she broke free from his embrace and finally looked in the direction where Daniel was sitting. She recognized him. Despair was evident in her eyes. With uneven steps and a slight sway, she headed towards her husband. Tears were already glistening in her eyes. He looked at her coldly and shook his head. She understood that it was the end. Of course, Daniel did not forgive such behavior from his wife. After all the events, a scandal followed, and then a divorce. But before that, he dealt with the irresponsible suitor of his wife in a manly way so that the scoundrel knew that such actions did not go unpunished. What do you think about this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And thank you for listening to the story until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be sure to like this video, as it will help us promote the channel. All the best.